All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this Monday, wherever you are in the world. I suppose it could, in fact, be Tuesday. So thank you for joining me. My name is Jason Levine, Principal Worldwide Evangelist for Adobe. And today, for the next 30, 40, 50 minutes, SPD TDL. Hey, thanks so much. Glad to see you. Vota, Evil Cerise back in the house. Great to see all of you. Thank you for joining me here. We're going to be talking today about how to edit 360 VR footage in Premiere Pro CC 2017. And really, the goal today is to... hello from India, Saurav. Hey, Barry, how are you? The goal is to really just kind of show you the workflow and how to get started with this. One of the cool things, Ainasam, hello, is that we have a lot of 360 options out there, and fairly inexpensive ones if you just kind of want to get started with 360. Having said that, and hello Fred, hello Light Records, hello Frederick Lindgaard, Vaneshka, hey, how are you? Good to see you again. Oh, Fred Jones from Colombia, very nice. Opu, hi. Robert Schulten from the Netherlands, great to see you. A lot of options to create 360. What comes along with that, of course, is no standard. And by that I simply mean that some footage will come pre-stitched right out of the camera after you finish shooting it. So for instance, Nikon Key Mission, for which I'll be showing you a couple of examples today, they stitch it in camera. So you get it out of there. Hey, Nikisha! All right, Fiona, how are you doing? Mahmoud, Dan, Devolved, very nice to see you. Thanks, Sarov. Yes, I'm very excited. So, yes, Nikon Key Mission. It stitches it, you shoot it, you can just start editing. I'm also going to be showing some Samsung Gear 360, which is the camera that I have. Fantastic camera, shoots beautiful 4K. However, the footage is not stitched, which means that you have to use their own software. Now, there are other software options that you can use to stitch it, but what you need ultimately to begin editing inside of Premiere Pro CC 2017 is an equirectangular flavor of that 360 content. And while I won't show it in today's stream, we'll do this on another one. There's another software plugin called Metal Skybox, which you can use in both After Effects and Premiere. And that too can also do conversions to equirectangular or dual spherical, lots of different formats in 360. The one we're going to focus on is equirectangular. That's what Premiere Pro wants to see. All right. Hey, Mendy from Maryland. Gregory from Spain, very nice. Gaurav, very nice to see you. Elizabeth Young, hi, how are you? Oscar Pena. Okay, so let's get started, shall we? And I've got the chat up here, so I will be looking at your questions. Hello, Renan. Fantastic audience today. So nice to be back home streaming. We just had a really fantastic video-based stream out in San Francisco on Adobe Live for the last 3 days, so I see some familiar faces. Hello, Scott Michaud, very nice to see you. The Knowledge, Bobansky from Bahrain, very great. It was a busy streaming week, and it's good to be back on here. I do apologize if I sound a little darker and more nasal. I'm suffering from really terrible allergies, so if I momentarily sneeze, and, well, you'll probably see it on the screen right there if I make a mess, so let's hope that doesn't happen. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry it keeps buffering, Vaneshka. Well, hopefully you're okay. I'm not seeing any issues on my side, so keep just refreshing. And hello, Syed from Pakistan. Okay. All right, so we're going to start here in Premiere Pro, and if I just go to my bin here, and if I view these by text just for a moment, once again, you'll see that I've got some footage shot on the Nikon Key Mission. This was actually provided to me by one of our own users, Mr. Jared Hillhouse, might be joining us in the chat today. Hello, Jared. Thank you very much. Thank you, SPD. You dig the hair. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bunny. Hello, Christoph from Hungary. I am 1/4 Hungarian. Fun fact right there. Nobody probably knew that. Haruna, hi from Ghana. Wow, very international audience today. Ant Pruitt, what is up? Catching it live today, man. So good to see you. So we've got some Nikon Key Mission. And again, these are exported out as .mp4. Classic format, no issue there. Also, this is stuff that I shot myself on the Gear 360. Now, what's interesting, the Gear 360, it actually shoots, again, this is in 4K. It actually creates the unstitched media is actually exported in H.265. What? Yeah. However, their proprietary software that does the conversion will spit out an H.264. Now, you might think that's sort of weird. Hello, Andres DB. Good to see you again. And thank you, Gregory. Awesome. You might think, well, that's sort of going from, lossy to lossy. It works somehow. And of course, H.265, a little bit higher quality, a little bit smaller file size, higher data rate. So it just somehow works, but that's their format. And then we've got some footage that you've probably seen in some of the demos that I've done over the last half a year or so, provided to us. I believe these were from Camp 4 Collective, of this project called The Needles, which you can find, I believe, on the Jaunt website. Jaunt VR does a ton of stuff. Really one of the early adopters of this. They've done videos for Paul McCartney and just crazy things. This was shot totally high-end. This footage that I have from them, this is like ProRes 444, and it's stereoscopic as well. So huge media, huge footage, 360 VR stereoscopic. Thank you so much. Hey, Claudio from Italy. Very nice to see you. All right. So let's just start with the process of creating a sequence by default and what you got to do to actually set up the interface. Because if you just shoot 360 and you drag it into Premiere and you try and make a sequence, you're not going to see 360 right away. So let's talk about that for a second. Okay. Now, the traditional way, of course, would be to go into something like the new item bin here and just make a new sequence. However, I'm going to show you a slightly easier way, but there's a couple of things that you'll want to modify with regard to your program monitor and perhaps in the sequence settings, and I'll make you aware of where those are to ensure that you actually get the best beginning 360 editing experience. So I'm going to take this clip here. Let's just go ahead and double click on this and bring this into the source monitor. So incidentally, if you take a look here, this is what a stitched, albeit still sort of flattened looking 360 clip looks like. We can just kind of go full screen on this. Don't mind me in the corner there. This was actually a shot of me driving through the desert, captured with the Samsung. You can actually see it right there. It was I had it a little gorilla mounted on the side of my door there. So when you bring the footage into Premiere, this is what it's going to look like. Now, the nice thing is we introduced a feature in the 2017 release called Auto Aware VR. And essentially, hey, Mendy, hey, Ahmad from Saudi Arabia. Essentially what that does is it automatically knows the attributes of that 360 content and builds the sequence for you based on those attributes. Now, if you want to just verify what it was shot in, you can always go up to the preview area. I usually keep this minimized here. You can find this in the flyout menu right next to the project panel there. All right, and this will give you all of the attributes of the video in question. So you can see here, this is a true Ultra HD 4K 3840 2160 pixel aspect ratio of 1.0. It's progressive, of course. It's shooting 2997 on that camera, 48K audio, which people have asked me before, how's the audio on a lot of those cameras? You know, surprisingly, not too bad. Oh, and the knowledge is from Rocco. Very nice. So again, it's kind of all self-contained, ready to roll. Now this was stitched in their own software, okay? Now I would show you that, but it's not ours, and that actually comes with the camera. And a lot of these cameras out there, sometimes they'll stitch it in camera dimension, others they'll come with a separate download. You download their software and it does the stitching automatically and very quickly. What I can say about the Samsung stitching software is it's really fast, it works brilliantly. Currently, at least as of a few months ago, it was Windows only. So I had to do the stitching on my Windows laptop and then bring those files into Premiere. So that was not the most ideal, but it works. And it works fast, and it's wonderful. Herr Mulwerf from Austria, very nice. Bunny, any reason my Premiere Pro has a dark UI? I like it that way. Also, the default in the latest 2017 is fairly dark. I think I might have even lightened this up a little bit when I was switching between apps so you could differentiate. But that's it. Yeah, dark UI is boss. Yeah, it's just a particular preference. Kathleen Nash from sunny Zona, Arizona. Me too. Another reason to keep the interface dark. I live in the desert. It's 350 days of sunshine. So despite keeping my studio here kind of, minimally lit, it's always nice to, I just like the dark UI. Some people love the lighter UI. It's really a personal preference. Zimbabwe up in here, very nice. Safe House Studios from North Carolina. All right, so let's go ahead and right click on this and we're simply going to choose New Sequence from Clip. And when I do that, it's going to take the name of the associated clip here. You can see I've got a bunch of sequences already down in the timeline. All right, and there's my footage. Now, once again, now we're looking at it in the program monitor here, and you're saying, okay, it looks exactly the same. Right, because there's a couple things we have to do before we can actually see the 360 content and be able to kind of move around the sphere. By the way, Bunny was just asking, where do you adjust the brightness of the UI? So on the Mac, it's Premiere Pro Preferences. On Windows, I believe it's going to be Edit menu, Preferences, and you want to go into the Appearance section here, and you can actually see, oh no, I made it as dark as possible. So here's kind of, Premiere Pro circa CS5 or CS5.5, and this is Premiere Pro today. So that's it. Again, just personal preference, and you can see you can even change kind of the lightness and darkness of the interactive controls and the focus indicators. I left those at the defaults. All right, so first thing you're going to need to do, is you're going to need to add the 360 viewer button to the program monitor. Now, you don't have to, and by the way, the button I'm talking about is this one here, Toggle VR Video Display. Let me just move over so you can also see the tooltip. All right. You know, a VIP version techno, it could also just be the stream. It tends to slightly darken the UI when we're going through various conversions and things here. Mahmoud's asking, what's the best PC for Premiere? You know, honestly, they're all very comparable, whether you're on Windows or Mac. If you're going to be working in 360, though, and that's a good sort of lead-in question, you want a powerful system. As I mentioned, we're talking 4K, 360-degree video. You need a system that's going to be semi-powerful. Will 8 gigs of RAM cut it? I suppose, and you could probably edit fairly reasonably with quarter or eighth resolution on your fractional playbacks here. But ultimately, the experience might not be so wonderful. So you just want as much RAM as possible. And if you can have any sort of GPU acceleration via NVIDIA CUDA, or again, always being able to leverage OpenCL, or on the Mac side, you can also use Apple Metal. That's going to help too. And we'll talk about proxies in just a minute as well, which will enable you to give you sort of even better playback performance. So you need to add this button. That Toggle VR Video Display button is not there by default. So let's go ahead and click on the plus sign here, which many of you may have never done before. It's the button editor. All right, and this contains all of the various buttons, which at one point in Premiere's history, we used to display all of these inside the program monitor. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, exactly, right. It was so busy. Now you can put in what you want, take it out. Fantastic. We changed all that in CS6. Best thing to ever happen when we redid all that UI. So the button you want, now again, you're not seeing it here because I've already added it, is this one. Now, if there are buttons that you don't see, or you're going, oh, that's where the loop playback button is, or oh, that's where the global effects mute. I was just doing something recently. I had to show where that button is. To add them, you simply click and drag it down. And you see now that global effects mute has been added to my to the buttons in my program monitor. So it's really easy, really simple. And by the way, you have separate button editors for the source and program monitors. Okay, so if you want it in both, you've got to add it to both. And that's by design. Buttons, buttons everywhere. Yes, wow, thank you. Very welcome. Okay, so we've added the button. So that's the first thing, all right? Now, just to get into some of the technical sides, again, it's not just about I'm cutting it right away. You need to make sure everything is set properly. Now, I mentioned auto-aware VR, something that we introduced at the beginning of the year in the update to Premiere Pro. But how do we actually see and verify attributes of these clips? Well, if we select the clip here in the time, or just select the sequence, let's go up to the sequence menu for a second and just go into sequence settings. And I want to show you where you can find that stuff. So here, in this case, if you look down, we've got this thing here, VR properties, and you'll see projection, equirectangular. Now, you don't have a lot of options here. We only work with equirectangular. So, oh, Lalo from Brazil, hey, nice to see you, and thank you very much for that. Very good to hear it. Blue spec, Jason had a hairball. Right, Camilo. It's either none or equirectangular. So if you do not have equirectangular footage, and I say that over and over because, as I mentioned at the beginning, there's lots of different 360 formats, okay? We have currently standardized on equirectangular. But if you go into something like Metal Skybox Converter, you can convert to all different types. So that's the one that you'll want to spit out that Premiere Pro can edit natively. Now, you've got a couple of other options here for the horizontal captured view and vertical. Again, it will detect these automatically. Typically, you'll see these at 360 degrees, 180. And then you have your layout. So for this particular video, it's shot 360, but this is monoscopic, right? So this is not stereoscopic. We don't need 3D glasses to see the 360, okay? Now I'm going to show you at the end here a combination of 360 VR stereoscopic, and when that's the case, you'll see you have two different options. It's either over, under, or side by side. Now, if you've never done stereoscopic editing before, these are sort of very standard terms to relate to different types of how the stereo footage was prepared and or shot. We're going to be working with over under here. We used to showcase a lot of side by side stuff in the early days. So pre VR. Let's see. Am I using a MacBook? Yes, Electro. And I should point out too. Good question. Good little segue. Just to before we delay the editing a little bit longer. But this is again not the latest, not the newest. Still rocking Yosemite because 16 gigs of RAM. Now this does have the NVIDIA GT750M in it, so that gives me a little bit more horsepower capability. And by the way, since I mentioned GPU acceleration, you can always enable GPU acceleration under Project Settings General. And if you go there, that's where you can decide what you want to use. And look at that. Actually, at the moment, I'm using OpenCL. I do have CUDA available to me, or you can use software only. All right. So let's see how OpenCL does. We're just going to leave that there for now. Okay. So now that we've done that, now that we've verified sequence settings, now that we've added the VR viewer button, let's do it, right? How are the speakers, Mendy? Surprisingly not awful. You know, they're bright, they're tinny. I mean, you're not gonna win any bass awards with them, but they're listenable. So let's go ahead and turn this on. And right when you turn it on, you see the view changes, because now what you have the ability to do is actually just click around inside the video, and you're experiencing me in my car right there, and exactly what the Samsung captured. Now, the other really cool thing about this, and we've shown this before, is that just like uninterrupted playback when using effects, you can turn effects on or off while working with what am I saying? You can turn effects on or off as you're playing the timeline. You can actually move through the sphere while you're playing back. Again, dependent on sort of how powerful your system is. So let's try this with OpenCL at quarter res playback. If I go ahead and start, I'm just going to mute this for a second. All right. See, I haven't even started driving yet. I'm getting ready. But you're seeing it's live, it's moving. Here, start moving, dude. Start driving. All right, there we go. And you're actually able to move through the sphere. The key here is that you don't have to have an Oculus setup to edit and test this. Not that you can't or shouldn't, by all means. The point is, Premiere Pro is handling all of this natively. And by the way, again, we're on a laptop, I'm broadcasting, I'm in 1/4 res, which means that you see it looks a little pixelated there, but when I stop, sharpens up, full resolution, right? I'm getting pretty amazing playback. And this is CC 2017. Look, we're not even dropping a single frame here. 4K, and I'm not using proxies either. So this is not going to be the performance of everyone's system. I can also tell you very honestly that when I cut this original piece, you can find actually this video on my YouTube channel. When I cut this original piece, I was not getting that kind of playback. So, you know, some days you're hot and some days you're not. Why do computers slow down? I don't know. They just do sometimes. So, you know, again, this is kind of the way it is. But we all know that sometimes performance is amazing. So that's the key. If you want better performance, and let me just see here, Technogap. No, I'm not using proxies. And you know that because if you look at the proxy button, so this is another one of those. Oh, here, I'll let you see the tooltip here. Toggle proxies. When it's gray, that means we are not using proxy files. So we are actually working off of the native media that was stitched from the camera, okay? Which in this case is MP4, which is H.264, which has to be decoded. So it's not even like smooth to begin with, and yet we're getting good performance. Yours may or may not be the same. We are also at quarter res, and you'll see that because I'm working in 4K, I also have the option to even go down to cut at 1/8 resolution. All right. Now, one of the other things, just mentioning about proxies, is that these are effectively lightweight, smaller versions of your media. And the reason for making them is simply so that you have a better playback, scrubbing, editing experience. Now, I can tell you, we can try. If I start winding backwards, yeah, see, like now I'm starting to drop some frames as I'm winding backwards. I mean, that's not uncommon anyway. I'm going double speed forwards. You know, we're probably losing a little bit, but honestly, looks like I'm driving really fast there. I'm just going double speed. I mean, it's, the performance is shockingly good even without. But let's talk about making proxies, because this is something you're likely going to want to do if you're working especially with 4K 360. I'm not saying you have to. I'm saying try it natively first. But if you want to use proxy files, once again, let's go up to our project settings here. And we'll go up to ingest settings, okay? Now, I believe later this week, I'm actually doing another Facebook Live on the Premiere Pro channel to show you how to make ingest proxy presets. This is a little tricky. Talk about that on Friday. Inside project settings, where we just were for the renderer, so again, we're using OpenCL, all your scratch disk stuff. This is the stuff that you see when you make a new project, first thing in Premiere Pro. The last tab here is ingest settings, okay? So all you need to do, if you want to work with content and have these lightweight, smaller, easier to playback files, click the ingest box here. Now you see you've got a couple options. You can copy, transcode, create proxies, that's what you want, or copy and create proxies. So you'd use copy and create proxies like if you're trying to take it off of a media card. For instance, Nikon Key Mission. The footage that is generated there is ready to edit. So if I want to simultaneously copy that media, the master native media, and create proxies, that's why I'd use that. Here, I've already taken all that media and copied it to a drive. So I don't need new copies, I just need the proxies made. So I choose create proxies. And then inside the menu here, now again, these will be a little bit different on Windows because you don't have a native Apple ProRes format to encode into or to transcode into. You're going to see some H.264 presets, some GoPro Cineform presets in a variety of frame sizes that should equate to whatever the master frame size is that you're working in, right? So 1280-720 is the same aspect ratio as 1080p, 1920, 1080, same aspect ratio as 3840-2160 or Ultra HD. So we're going to be focusing on these three here if I were to make proxies of this content. And again, I could use Apple ProRes 422, H.264. I would highly recommend GoPro Cineform for the simple fact that it's a native format in Premiere, both on Windows and Mac. It's optimized for playback. The files will be smaller than your master files. They're not going to be so much. I mean, they'll be smaller because they're 1280-720. Not small, but they're going to look a little bit better. You're going to feel better when you're editing it, and the performance of them is great. If worst case, if you don't want to go Cineform, you can do H.264, okay? And those perform very nicely too. And they're smaller. So, I mean, honestly, I almost never edit in 720p anymore. So recently I had to do some. I was kind of shocked at how good the performance was. Now, TechnoGap, that's a great thing. So yes, so Cineform and H.264 are the only ones that you see on Windows. Having said that, that doesn't mean that you couldn't make a DNxHR or DNxHD, i.e. Avid format proxy preset. You absolutely can. So this is what I'm going to talk about on Friday's Facebook live stream, but those are just the defaults, okay? Those are just the defaults that we give you. You could make it in H.265 if you want to. I wouldn't recommend that because, again, the playback of H.265, decoding H.265, it's heavy. So even though the file would be smaller, the frame size would be smaller, the decoding process is a bit heavier. So there are certain codecs that are going to be more optimized, okay? Now, Khalid is asking, do proxies lower the quality? Well, yes, they are lower quality by design, right? That's what gives you better playback. They're smaller, sure. The difference is that here's how easy this workflow is. So when you're cutting, now I don't have proxies attached to this, but when you're cutting, you turn on the proxy button, okay? And it goes blue. Now we're working with those 1280-720 proxies. They may look a little softer. Otherwise, by the way, you can watermark them too when you make your preset, and I typically recommend that. And I really only do them when I work in 4K anyway. But when it's blue, you're working with proxies. Now to answer your question, Khalid, does it lower the quality when you render? No, or Blue Spec asked that too. Because simply you uncheck that box. When it's gray, now you're seeing the media. There's no manual reconnecting. There's no reassigning or relinking the master footage. It knows. That's part of the very well-designed proxy creation system that the Premiere engineers did. That's not trying to sound salesy either, by the way. I realize that came out like, hey, try this mug. No, it's just well done, so you don't have to do any relinking. Also, more to that point, oh, and I see Simon Powell saying, yeah, I only really use proxies when the original is 4K. Same for me, because I'm cutting everything on a laptop. Additionally, if you had proxies already generated, all right, maybe you're using Avid too with Premiere, maybe you're doing Final Cut, whatever, and you've already made proxies of your footage, you can, at any point in time, select media in the project panel, right click or control click. Oh, sorry, let me move up so you can see that. Go to the proxy menu, and you see from here you can create proxies. You can also attach third-party proxies. Maybe you made proxies in Prelude. Maybe you just made them in some other medium. Maybe you made them out of VLC because you were, or Handbrake because you were making a bunch of dupes into some other format or something. Attach proxies. And also, if you were doing sort of offline, online, here's where you can do kind of the older school reconnecting full res media. But if you make the proxy from within Premiere, you will not have to do that. And the only thing is, when you go to render, just remember to click off that box. Okay? You want that mug. Oh, hey, Charlie Careless. Yes. It's been a hard day's night. All right. So, Safe House, as I said, if I were to make them, there's nothing to do. You just enable the function here. Because once this box is checked, in fact, here, I'll make one for you. All right? I'll make it just for you. Once this box is enabled, I'm gonna do Cineform. And you see proxy destination, same as project, okay? Anything I drag into here now, it will start making a proxy for me. By the way, you can begin editing with the native media, as you normally would, and that's what we're gonna do here, and it all works exactly the same. So if I were to take, let's say, just one of, now these are unstitched, it doesn't matter because we're not gonna be using these clips anyway. But let me just take one of these. I'll go to this one here. Let's just do a smaller one. Okay, number 16. Drag this into unstitched clips. Okay, so it drags that footage in. All right, so if I just make this full screen for a moment, you can see that at the moment here, this is the original native MP4 3840 1920. Okay, and right now it tells us that the proxy is offline. Why does it? Oh, you can't see that. Sorry. There it is. The proxy is offline. Why is that? Because if we go over to Adobe Media Encoder, what you're actually seeing now, if I twirl this down, this is now creating the proxy in the background. So even as I make a new sequence from this clip, okay? And it just attached it too. Oh, it's almost done. Okay. So I make a new sequence from this clip. When it's done creating that proxy, oh, and there it is. It's done now. It switches to attached. Okay? That's it. It's that simple. And because that ingest box is checked now, anything that I do in here, anything that I drag into the project panel, it's going to generate that proxy. And yes, Simon says, save the proxy next to the original file, same as the project, and you'll fill up the HC. Yeah, I mean, you have the option to place them anywhere. And yes, Techno, you can generate proxies without using the Adobe Media Encoder and bring them into Premiere after the fact. It will automatically, you just have to tell it to attach them. And that's why I said you could multi-select 50 clips, go to the attach menu, and then point it to the where the first one is, it will find all of the subsequent ones, right? Okay? Pretty cool. All right. So that is the proxy workflow. And again, right now, this is the native media. If I turn this on, we're looking at the proxy, okay? Oh, and this was, because this was the raw unstitched, you're seeing a little weird change there. You wouldn't normally see that. That's my bad. A little bit of user error right there. Okay. So you get the idea. And by the way, I'm going to turn that off because if I happen to bring something else in here, I don't want it to create proxies for this project. Okay. So now that we're here, now that we're inside of Premiere, two more things to show you. There's really nothing to tell you about the edit because the edit is exactly the same. If you grab, if you start cutting around and moving things around, let's just do some random cuts here. All right. I'm doing this for the purpose of just showing you that it's exactly the same. Or if I go back here and I want to do a rolling edit. All right, so I'm clicking on the screen right inside the editor here, and I can roll between these cuts, All right, now I hadn't even adjusted them, so we're actually seeing the exact same in and out point here. It functions exactly the same. If I wanted to do a ripple, right? Okay, just using some keyboard shortcuts here. It all functions exactly the same. If I wanted to add just a fade up from black, right? A typical sort of transition, you can do that as well, okay? So it all functions exactly the same, which is something that I will typically do. So typically do like a little dissolve. And it's funny, last week on the stream, we had Imagine Dragons editor, amazing guy, Matt Easton, spent 3 days with me in the studio. And I was asking him, I was saying like, oh, do you ever, and by the way, I'm just editing while I'm talking just to show you that it's exactly the same, okay? I said, oh, do you ever, do you use like the film dissolve, the linear light dissolve? And he said, no, I just kind of go standard classic cross dissolve. And you can see it's doing a little cross dissolve right there. If you look in the clouds, you can see it. All right. So all those kind of basic things work exactly the same. Similarly with color grading. So when you grade this just as if it were any other footage. All right. Nice. Keyboard shortcuts. Oh yes. Well, no, Evil Cerise. I told you I know 8 of them. You're seeing 4. JKL 5. JKL V and C. I think I only know 3 more. All right. So the editing process, identical. Nothing changes. This is why this is so cool. But wait, there's more. Okay. So once again, just to kind of showcase here. And by the way, I just want to point something out really quickly. If we go back to the non-VR display. So this is me walking in Amsterdam last September. And this was one of those things when you shoot 360, especially when you're out on the street, it can be very informative because when I turned on, if you just look at the still frame right here. So, I'm going to wind back just for a second. We're at 1:13 and 26 seconds. Okay. All right. And look at that. Right now, for whatever reason, my computer's barfing a little bit. Let's go ahead and play back. And, I'm walking past all of these people. And of course, again, we can kind of move around here. But this is what I wanted to show you. I'm going to wind back. This is so funny. I love this. This is something that I didn't know until I shot the footage. So take a look at this woman here. It's really funny. All these people as I'm walking down the street are kind of giving me these weird looks because I'm holding the 360 camera out here. So watch. Look at her face. She's like, what are you doing, dude? And that to me, that to me is like the coolest thing about shooting content like this, which is, the virtual part of it is fine. I don't know if this makes you feel like you're in Amsterdam with me, but you just can reveal and see things that you never would have seen otherwise. So that's just a silly thing. I just wanted to kind of point that out. Similarly here, like I shot some stuff in this restaurant. So this kind of shows you, before the VR viewer is turned on. There it is after. And this is, just me like eating a hamburger. Okay, there's nothing. This was one of those times where I was shooting a bunch of footage and thought this will be really amazing. This is going to be so interesting to watch me eat and see what's happening in the restaurant. Unfortunately, nothing really did. So, except watching me like cut my hamburger there. Now, there's a couple other ways that you can access settings for 360. Tornado PL. Yes, literally eyes on your back. Herr Mulverf, how can you play reverse? Yes, so I'm using, it's just the standard JKL shuttle keys, which I believe it's the same mappings for all keyboards. Of course, this will be different on Japanese keyboard, I guess, Russian keyboard. But anything that's using standard Roman characters, JKL should give you, so J for reverse, K to pause, and L to shuttle forward. And if you actually, and you can double tap them to speed up 2x, 3x, 4x, or reverse in different speed. All right? Nice. You hate it when people look at filmmakers like aliens. It happens a lot. You wish he had said something in Dutch. Oh, that's another thing, too. So there is audio on all of this, of course, and I'm going to get back to that, too. Command Z is the only one. That's number 6, by the way, Simon Powell. I know Command Z. Yeah. Okay. So in the sequence settings, there are 2 options, maximum bit depth and maximum render quality. I do not understand what they are for. Please answer. You have nightmares, Mauricio. Okay, let's help Mauricio just for a moment here. So what he's referring to are these settings here. This is for, and I'm assuming you're talking about here in the sequence settings. Yeah. So this is for if you're going to be creating preview files. Now, why do you create preview files anyway? This is actually a great segue for 360 editing. Because again, color grading. If you're gonna add Lumetri to this, it's gonna get a little bit heavier, right, to process. If you're going to use Metal Skybox to say project text into the 360 sphere. Now that's something else. I'll detour back to that. Don't let me forget what that is to come back to that. Things are going to get heavier. And you probably may likely, even if you've got GPU acceleration enabled, you may likely have to just render the previews, right? Sometimes we do have to render previews. As much as I love Premiere and being able to do stuff in real time, yeah, if you've got grading and blur and text and other things happening, it's a heavier load, right? And in 4K on a laptop with external spinning drives. So you can choose a preview file format. Now, again, for me, for you, I would recommend GoPro Cineform with Alpha 12-bit. That's the highest quality. In this case, if you choose maximum bit depth, and you'll see by enabling this, okay, now it's telling you optimize rendering preference to memory. That's in your preferences under the memory settings. There's memory and performance. When you enable these, effectively what this is doing, it's going to create those render previews, which you can then use when you export or when you render the final product. And what that means is, if you've made high quality GoPro Cineform 12-bit previews with these boxes checked, you go to render, okay, 4K 360, those renders they're not super short. I mean, if the content is short, they can be. But if you're exporting ProRes 444, the content is big, the render's just gonna take time. It depends on your system, right? So having preview files, video previews, speeds up time because it uses already rendered content in those places where you rendered. Does that make sense, Mauricio? So it's just a time saver when you actually go to do the final render. That's really it. Okay. Oh, and yes, yeah. Simple tricks for faster editing. Yeah, actually, we posted a link, Khalid. I don't know if any of our mods can let you. Evil Cerise is in here. He'll let you post a link for that. Oh, and Freddie Wong, man, I would say Freddie is the keyboard shortcut ninja. I did that live stream with him a year and a half ago from Max. I was on the edge of my seat because he was just, all you heard was, I mean, he edits at the speed of light. It was amazing just to watch, you know. So yeah, okay. So that's what those sequence settings are for. And again, that can be very useful if you're producing, content, editing content, and then ultimately treating it and grading it. Now, again, some of the things, this is kind of funny. This is otherwise looks somewhat perfect, except that my nose is cut off. This is an artifact from the Stitch, and that's based on where I was kind of holding that camera. You can see very faintly here, that's where the Stitch line is. So it just kind of depends on how you set this up. Again, I was holding it here. I've got the camera perched on a rock here at one of the canals in Amsterdam. So the stitching was much nicer. There's less, you can actually see it right there if you take a good look, right here. But it's almost perfect. I have found in shooting with this content that you are going to get better looking content, better looking stitching if you're not holding the camera. That just seems to be kind of a thing. Now, let's see. You're very welcome. Can you use blur in 360? Yes, you can. Now, again, for certain types of effects, I really recommend checking out, and I see Evil Cerise just posted the name there, I recommend checking out Metal Skybox. Post-production on 360, and this is a good segue back into that, is a little bit different, especially again when you're working with text and light and sort of animating things in 360 space. And they've just got a lot of great plugins that you can use in After Effects and Premiere that are just going to work better and really conform to that spherical environment. We're not talking two-dimensional anymore. It's not stereoscopic, but it is spherical. Two-dimensional was the wrong term. It's not just sort of in front of you, it's all around you now. All right, so I just want to segue real quickly back to this Nikon key mission footage. Again, want to thank Jared Hillhouse for lending that to me. So this is an example of some footage that he shot. These cameras stitch it in camera. This is also 4K. Again, not using proxies here. I'm just going to mute that. All right, and this kind of gives you an idea. Again, really simple, really easy. Now that's interesting. Look at that. You can really see the stitch right there, okay? So they're all going to have potentially, I mean, obviously maybe very, very expensive cameras won't. They're all going to have slight noticeable stitching areas at some point. I guess it also depends on the type of 360 camera it is. Metal has a whole bunch of tutorials, however, on Vimeo that actually teach you how to correct some of that. And actually, this being sort of more of a tonal balance shift, you could actually do that pretty easily in After Effects and just neutralize the sky right there so that you don't see that stitching artifact. So it's not that terrible. Similarly, if you're doing, someone mentioned stabilization. It involves using the After Effects tracker, and it's a little trickery using the Metal Skybox plugin, but that's where you do, like, you can't stabilize this using the classic stabilizer. It doesn't work that way because that stabilizer doesn't work in 360 space. So Metal Skybox is what you really want to look into. And there are others. That's just one that I've used. Kasude, I need Jason standing over my shoulder when you edit Adobe at all times. Oh, that's very nice. I would be very nice. I wouldn't, I wouldn't critique. I would only offer up when you wanted me to say something. I'm going to give you lots of props. That's awesome. Oh, Seago, you're very nice. Thank you very much. Okay. Yes. Oh, and here, my YouTube channel. I'll just stick it in the chat if you want to follow me for more. And you can find, again, this that Desert 360 test. It is youtube.com/Jason Levine video. I'm putting it in the chat here. And then we're going to segue into 360 stereoscopic. Hey, Miko, how are you? And as Blue Spec says, yeah, there's absolutely better cameras. 4.8 sensors, stitching exposure differences are less noticeable. Absolutely. Gear 360 is inexpensive. The Ricoh, what is it called? It's like the rectangular one. That's kind of, I think, the cheapest one out there. Now, that only does 1080. But that was kind of one of the, it was like the proof of concept 360 cameras. You can take that footage, just start cutting it, doing it, posting it to Facebook Live, posting it to YouTube, and it just works. Okay. One other thing too. So now, let's see. Did you see this? Oh yeah, you already saw that. So again, that's the unstitched content. That's actually what the unstitched looks like just by turning on VR. And you see when you don't stitch it, you get these really weird artifacts. But what I wanted to also show you is what it looks like just raw. So this is the footage via H.265, although it shows up here as .mp4. Coming out of the Samsung Gear. And again, that has those dual spherical lenses. So that's what it looks like if you were just to view it right off the camera. Like, it creates files that you could play in Finder or play in VLC. That's what it's going to look like. And you can actually see, you can even play it in Premiere, all right? Now, to some degree, I was even thinking that's actually kind of cool in and of itself, but this is, again, flat. You're not working in that spherical space, okay? So, Rico Theta, thank you, Sam. Bunny, you love me singing. Very good. Oh, Mea Booba? Yes. So, this is kind of what it looks like pre-stitched. I'm just showing you that so that you kind of get the idea. There's also a cube sphere variation. There's different types of kind of raw 360, and you can find a lot of those on the web just to kind of get an idea of what they look like. And you'll see that it even plays, and even without stitching it, you can still have this kind of move around the 360 space thing, but you're just going to have some bad stitching artifacts. There's usually some doubling, right? There's just nothing smooth. I mean, that looks kind of cool in a music video kind of way. You can kind of use that as some kind of spinny transition thing. Actually, you know what? Maybe this is just awesome and I'm just talking trash. I don't know. It's really entirely up to you. But now, let me show you two more things. First, we're going to talk about stereoscopic VR, all right? So, Puckatavium, no. So Premiere Pro does not do the stitching itself, and that's what I was just saying. Some cameras do it in camera. Some cameras give you an additional software to do it or recommend a third-party software. One that I've used, which is not tied to any camera, is Skybox, Metal, M-E-T-T-L-E, Metal Skybox, and you can also do stitching in there to a variety of different 360 formats. All right, so now this content, let me just go ahead and pull this up. I'm going to reveal in the project, just so once again I can show you here, and then we'll close that preview. So again, this is 4K by 4K because this is stereo, right? So it's showing up here square because it's a full 3840 2160 for the left and a full 3840 2160 for the right, okay? So in this case, at 60 frames per second, and this is also ProRes. So this footage is huge. This footage is also flat. It's not been graded yet. So this is kind of a good segue into like grading the content as well. Now, in the case of this footage, let me just go back to those sequence settings for a moment. I'm going to select it here. This is where, the only difference now is that you'll see, and here, let me turn off the viewer to once again. So this is what we call over under, right? Side by side would be just like that. It would be like this, over unders like this. Two different formats for creating your stereo 360. And with Auto Aware VR, Premiere Pro already knew that it was stereoscopic over under. Okay, that's all tagged in the metadata of the file. Once again though, I'll be honest, I pulled in a clip or two from some random 360 cameras. It didn't auto detect. So now you know where to find that and how to modify that. Now there's another way to do it too. In the flyout menu or the wrench menu or the settings menu. Which one is it? The settings menu inside of Premiere. Okay. Click on this, you'll see it says VR video. Notice you have enable, so that's the same as turning on the button. So again, theoretically, you don't need that 360 button, but it's just easier. Why go to a menu? It's like 2-3 clicks to get to enable. Does the same thing. Hide controls, what's that? Well, if you saw when we released 360 a year ago, you will want that hidden. The reason being, let's go ahead and enable this first. If we turn on those controls, so we'll show the controls, what it does is it gives you this viewer with handles on the left and right that basically work as you're adjusting the degrees horizontally and vertically, which is kind of nice. But the problem is now you're working in this fixed window size, and it's not very pretty, right? That may seem dumb, but it just doesn't look good. It doesn't make me want to edit. So I hide those. Now you're working in full screen. And again, it works the same way. Now you're probably looking at this going, yes, the S-Log footage. So Technogap, I'm not sure exactly what this was obviously a very high-end, expensive Pro 360 VR camera. And again, you can find this on the Jaunt site. I believe it's Jaunt, JAUNT.com, Jaunt VR. And this project is called The Needles, and which are these mountains that you see here. Now, again, this is stereoscopic, so why are we not, this looks the same, it doesn't look stereo. Well, this is where you actually do have to change something in those settings, which is why I pulled those out. Okay. Oh yeah, Techno, Red 360, can you imagine how much that's going to cost? Not going to be cheap. If we go into settings, here you will see that it has detected it as stereoscopic, so it doesn't even show, mono or it knows it's stereo. You can view the left, the right, or anaglyph. So this is going to allow you to, test, again, in 360, in real time, what this looks like. So if I had my red-blue glasses, I'm probably going to have to put this to 1/8 res, because this is heavy media here. Again, no proxies on this at the moment. Go ahead and play this back. Now, I'd be able to move around. So not only am I in 360, but I'm in stereoscopic 360. Which, if you wrap your head around that for a second, oh, and by the way, we can go full screen on this if we want to, right? I mean, you can really, this is a fun way to kind of see what's happening and to cut around and move around. It's really very cool. It just works. It just kind of works very simply right out of the box. If you have one of those external Oculus setups, again, you could be testing this in the goggles. The point here is that you don't have to natively inside of Premiere, okay? So that's a little bit on, again, there's nothing different here. Oh, the one other thing I was going to show you, let me go back to just, since this one happens to be flat, I just wanted to point out as far as grading goes, okay? Let me bounce over to my color workspace. So, I've got a little GPU mess right there, okay. So, once again, Lumetri color. Now, if you wanted to apply an input LUT to this, you could do that. I don't know what this was shot with, so I don't know how this is going to look. Let me do like a Phantom Rec 709. No, that is absolutely not it. Okay. Let's not use any input LUTs. Having said that, we can use anything else in here. So if we just wanted to start with one of the creative LUTs, for instance, let's come down over here, control down Creative, and we can start clicking through. Now these are like some of those film stock emulations. Let's find one that I like here. Well, this is kind of nice, SL Big. All right, just apply that, or not. Maybe we don't love that one so much. Maybe instead I'll do my own temperature adjustment. And let's increase the contrast a bit. A little bit of saturation. Okay. Maybe give this a little bit of an S-curve pop right here. Not too much right there. Last week on the live stream on Adobe Live, we had the colorist from Joe Talbot's film American Paradise, and he was saying how when he's using curves on the master in particular, he really tries to limit himself to the least amount of points as possible. And I thought that was really good, because I know I've gotten kind of lost in the weeds a few times and found myself, plotting too much. All right, so maybe we'll punch up a little bit more of the blues here. And similarly, if we come down now, let's go into one of these film stock LUTs, all right, and add a little bit more vibrance and maybe a little more saturation, and maybe add our highlight tints. Let's warm those up a little bit. Okay, and again, play this back, and if I go into my effects controls, now I'm playing this in 1/8 res, but you see I can enable or disable Lumetri while it's playing, and it functions just like anything else. Okay, it's no different. The experience of Technogap, it's nuts. I mean, and now, now that this is graded, I mean, it's really the footage. I'm not saying this is a fantastic color correction or grade or anything, but it's really something. And again, when you stop, and you can see the stitch right there when I'm playing in 1/8 res, but it's quite smooth when you go back to full quality. Okay, all the more reason to, again, always look at and modify your fractional playback settings, because you'll see different things in all of those different views. Okay, lighten up the UI? Sure thing. I will do that just for you. All right. How's that? I'm almost here. I'll go to the default is the darkest. Okay. Is that a little bit better? Okay. Okay. So, we've got 8 minutes. So let me now talk to you about, we've done stereoscopic. Oh, one more thing before we go to export. I just wanted to point this out because, so this footage here, and in fact, I'm just going to erase the cuts that we did. Let me grab my Leaving the Boulders timeline clip. Oh, that's the sequence, sorry. What was it? Leaving Boulders, here it is. So this is just in regard to working with secondary audio. Again, the process of working with just stereo. Now, we're not talking ambisonic. Now, I can't say anything, but obviously, as you might imagine, we're continually developing the 360 VR workflow. Currently, today, we don't support ambisonic audio. And that's, if you've seen some of the videos on the web, you know that as you move your head around or move the goggles or just move in space in the browser, in some of the videos out there, the audio actually follows, it's positional, right? Currently today, we don't have that in here, but you can still always attach secondary audio that's been captured alongside of any reference audio. So this was the audio coming off the camera. Could be garbage. Could be cool. Guess we'll see. Okay, which is obviously noisy. It's capturing all the vibration of the car. It's mounted on the car. So I was also capturing, if you remember, and you can see for yourself, I'm capturing audio with my iPhone right there. All right. So after I was done filming here, I took that M4A file, and this is just like the process we would use, if we were doing a multicam. I can select my secondary audio and the camera with its reference audio, right-click or control-click on this, and choose Synchronize. And when you choose Synchronize, it opens up the Synchronize Clips dialog, Synchronize via audio, and you can see you can track channel 1 here. Okay, this happens to be a mono file. Go ahead and click OK on this. It does it. It moves everything accordingly. And you can actually see that I started the iPhone before I started the camera. So that's fine. Now if we play this back, let's go ahead and mute the camera audio so you can just hear the secondary audio, and you'll see it's a bit cleaner. Obviously it's still noisy. I'm in the car, but take a listen. And here I can even do this in the track mixer as well. So let's just pull down the car audio. Take a listen. Capturing audio in 2 places. This is a test, you know. There's the car audio.
No idea how this is going to look.
This could be garbage. Could be cool. Guess we'll see. Okay. Synced, easy, really super cool. All right. So, oh, there you go. Yep, Simon playing with a Zoom H2N and spatial audio at the moment. Very, very cool. No. So, and Meluli. So, no, I do not want to say that the Key Mission or the Samsung Gear is not. It's not that it's not good audio. In this case, because I had it mounted on a moving car, it just the audio is not good, right? It's capturing all the of the driving. I mean, I'm in the desert, so wind is going by. The capture inside the car is much quieter. So that's it. No. In fact, I'd be the first to say that of these cameras that I've tested out too, I mean, they're sort of shockingly good. And the iPhone, to be honest, with its native voice recorder, not even a special app, the native app, is a very good secondary audio capture system. I've got an H4n. I never use it. I've got a Tascam, 2 Tascams. I never use either one of those. Somewhere I still have a Nagra. Why would I use that? It's analog tape. But whatever works, you know. They're all pretty decent. Miko, yeah. So that's the Samsung Gear, and you can you can't see it here because of the stitch, but you can see it in my mirror right there. So that you can actually see it mounted on the car, right? And there, if we stop, there it is. Okay. Very cool. Right click, sync, done. What? Yep, that's it. That's it, Seago. That's all you have to do. Okay, so now we are ready to export. How the heck do we get this to YouTube and to Facebook so that it knows it's 360 and it works properly? File, export, media. All right. Now, again, you could create a GoPro Cineform file, a ProRes file. If you're going to be going to the web, you're going to want to create H.264 files, for which we've already created presets that you can use based on the frame size of your content. So let's go to H.264. When you go to H.264, you'll notice in the menu, and I know all of you have probably seen this already, of course we have a preset for Facebook, and some have asked before, why do you only have 720? That's what Facebook has standardized on, so Facebook only delivers 720p. You also have presets for YouTube. And I think Vimeo, did they just go 362? Like just? So we don't have that preset in here yet, although I guess it would technically work the same way. So because I'm working in 4K, I would choose the YouTube 4K preset. Now, everything can stay standard. You don't have to modify this preset at all. The only thing you have to do to ensure that this goes to YouTube or Facebook and can be viewed in 360, whether in a browser or on a device, again, I'm just using the iPhone because that's what I have. It'll leverage the accelerometer and you can move around in 360. Under the video tab here, this is very important, scroll this all the way down and you will see that it too has the video is VR box. Now this should be checked based on auto aware. So it knows the sequence is VR. When you go to a format that supports 360 output, this should automatically be checked and it should automatically know the frame layout. That's it. You can queue or export, upload it to YouTube, and you're done. Don't forget, you can also use your publish settings here. So if you wanted to publish this simultaneously to Facebook and YouTube, so that you don't have to do the upload and you can see you can add your tags and description and whatever, you can do that here as well. Okay? So just one more proof positive of that. Let's go to the stereo needles footage here. Okay, so this is stereoscopic 360. File, export, media. Okay, I want to deliver this to let's go to Facebook this time. Okay, Facebook 720. All right, let's go ahead and scroll down here. Video is VR, stereoscopic, over under. It automatically knows. That's the essence of auto aware VR. All right. So, my friends, that is how to edit 360 VR content, monoscopic and stereoscopic, inside of Premiere Pro CC 2017. It's easy. In fact, it's basically exactly the same as cutting non-360 footage, with the exception of a few things. As we mentioned, if you want to project text in 360 space. So someone asked earlier, and I missed it before, what if you create a text layer in Premiere and you fly it across the screen? That text layer is not going to respect the 360 space. That's something that you have to do in an app, in a plugin like in Metal Skybox, okay? Certain types of effects and things. Now you saw me use like cross dissolves, and some basic effects in Premiere will work. But if you really want certain effects and things to work within the sphere, there are plugins that allow you to do that in After Effects and Premiere Pro, okay? So there's certain limitations just based on the file format itself, but the cutting process is virtually identical to cutting non-360 footage, all right? That's right, Simon. So so when you export with the YouTube preset today, it's telling you that the audio isn't suitable, meaning that it understands, it's looking for potentially ambisonic. So your audio will just be flat stereo. It does not adjust as you move, change your perspective on screen, dragging the screen or wearing goggles. That may change in the near future. So stay tuned for some announcements right here on Creative Cloud. So Marco, this is the end of our time here, but you can watch this back. We were just looking at Samsung Gear 360. This, I wish I knew exactly what camera this one was. Something very, very high end. This is some Nikon Key Mission footage shot by one of our Premiere Pro users. And again, I'm viewing these in fractional res. So when you go to stop, you can really see the full quality of these. And they're quite beautiful. And then here's some random footage of me in Amsterdam, also shot with the Samsung Gear 360. Just an inexpensive way to get into the 360 world. And like I mentioned, one of the benefits here is that as you play back and start doing color tests and things, you can actually move around the footage inside the program monitor, simulating what it would be like to be inside the sphere without any external gear. Oh, of course, you could only see my face, so that was a total waste of time. Sorry for that. Duh. Okay, sorry. So, Amsterdam footage, moving around the sphere. The one time I don't look at my reference monitor. Okay. Nikon Key Mission, beautiful. Thank you, Evil Cerise, for keeping me on my toes. All right, and I was mentioning I'm working in quarter res here, and then some stereoscopic 360 shot on something that I really need to, we need to find out. We didn't get the specs of their gear, but you can just see, even as I'm still, this content just looks amazing. All right, everyone, thank you so much. I want to point out again, you can watch this replay immediately after I stop. Thank you for joining me on this Monday. It's been awesome. Thank you, Puckett, Khalid, Richard James, thank you so much. Vaneshka, great to see you. Techno Gap, Cyan, increased quality, yes. Just saying goodbye. SPD, Sego, Marco, Meluli, Kasude, Scott Michaud, Simon Powell, Vendetta, Miko, Marco, Evil Cerise, of course, all of our mods here, Shayla, Ant, so great to see you, man. Carpet, of course, great to see you. Relax and enjoy, thank you. Safe House, all right, and many, many others. Okay. So, my friends, I will see you again next time. Next time, I believe, I'll actually be on the After Effects Facebook page tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to be talking about how to use After Effects' recently added Cinema 4D render engine to do 3D text and shape layers. So stick around for that. You can also follow me for more video training on audio and stuff on youtube.com/Jason Levine video. Thanks so much for watching. We will see you again next time. Take care, everybody. Thanks again. Bye-bye.